Hello, everybody. Today's conversation lives at the intersection of science and soul. Our guest, Laurie McGinley, is a best-selling author, speaker, and transformation guide who helps world-changing humans move beyond burnout and into embodied leadership. What does this mean? Well, Laurie's work is deeply informed by the neuroscience and teachings of Dr. Joe Dispenza, who we've talked about a couple of times on this podcast before, and whose research on neuroplasticity and personal transformation has shaped her own recovery, her daily practice, and her own framework, the Dissolve, a 3-step nervous system safe path for real change. Name it, soften it, and sashay through it. In this episode, we explore how believing change is possible is actually the first step to transformation, how meditation rewires the body for safety, and how to pair intention with elevated emotion to create the future you actually want to live. If you've ever resonated with Dispenza's work but wondered how to live it in real time in your body, your leadership, your relationships, or you've not heard of Dispenza at all and you want in on these secrets, Laurie is your guide. Not to mention, she's hilarious. We managed to have so much fun with this conversation. We know you'll find something to take away from this, and if nothing else, you might laugh a little bit with us. Enjoy.
Disco, the podcast.
Disco,
the podcast.
Laurie, hello.
Hi, Michelle. Hi, Zach.
Hi.
I'm so excited to be seeing you right now. And for listeners, we have Laurie McGinley with us here. And Laurie, you're many things. You're a transformational guide, and I'm gonna hand it to you in a second to explain a little bit more. But you're a transformational guide, a best-selling author, keynote speaker. We've watched your speeches. You've been in hot dog costumes sometimes.
I
Not
have.
today. I happen to know personally that you're an NDE experiencer. Whether or not we go there today, we'll see. A Joe Dispenza stan, which we are as well. So handing it over to you, tell us how you guide people, what it is that you're helping to transform for them. I'm also interested in a couple of things, and you can take this and spin it how you want to, but Via Lucent is your transformational guidance post. I mean, explain that a little bit, I guess, to us. And then also you talk about something called gravitas.
Gravitas. Clearly, you don't have it.
I guess not. Rude. I don't even know how this is rude, but we're going to find out. So yes, all of that through the lens of Laurie, what it is that you do and how you help to transform people and guide them through transformation.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And we'll get into gravitas. We'll get into Via Lucent. And if I didn't know anything about you two, and if I was just talking to you today, the way that I might explain what I do is I've been totally obsessed with how humans do things they've never done before for 35 years. Yeah. Yes, it started in middle school. And yes, that was approximately 1990 for me. I've taken it through every flavor of my career. I've changed careers 7 times.
Wow.
I'm a registered architect. I worked at the internet for a while. I've worked in heavy manufacturing. I've worked in higher ed. I owned a painting business when I was 20 years old. I've done lots and lots of different things. But the one golden thread that's gone through everything is, how do people do things they've never done before? And as somebody who for decades was a hyper overachiever, I burned out twice. And really what I do is I see people hamster wheeling it, thinking that they're Sha'Carri Richardson, and I help them understand that they're hamster wheeling it. I help them stop that, and I help them actually move into the life that they want to live. And what I've seen is that really ambitious people don't want to stop being ambitious, but a lot of them get to the point where the system that they're operating under is breaking them. And I help them feel and understand and dissolve and move into the realm where they can operate in a system where they can have what they want to have and be a nice person on Saturday afternoon.
Wow.
So I work with
Big
really
goals.
intelligent, really ambitious people who are working on something that is way bigger than them. And it turns out that's the recipe for burnout. So without meaning to, I've become a burnout expert because I've worked with
Sure.
so many people going through this. I wrote the book on burnout, released in April. That's the Amazon best-selling author status thing. And I wrote it from the context of storytelling because burnout feels different depending on who you are. And so a lot of people are like, I know this is real in my life and I know I want that, but I don't know what I'm doing. I'm stuck.
Yeah.
And that's usually where I come in. So I talk a lot about invisible barriers. A lot of people are confused by why they can't have what they want. It's really easy for me to perceive invisible barriers, which maybe is possibly related to the NDE. I don't really know. But I help you move through invisible barriers.
What are some examples of invisible barriers that any one person might be struggling with? Like, what is the typology of the ones you reliably encounter?
Yeah, I tend to give them really cute names, Zach. So when I talk to a lot of people, they don't like talking about this thing. It's like this really awful presence in their life. And almost the first thing I do is give it a cutesy kind of a name. So a really, really common one that I encounter is a lot of people have a clock demon. And what the clock demon does is it's kind of like looking at you all the time. And if you take a break, even if you just like slow down to 70% output capacity, the clock demon steps in and torches you for a second so that you speed up again. Mm-hmm. The clock demon is kind of related to like the cruel calendar, that if you don't have something filled in, it'll cause you to fill it in so that you stay in a constant state of overwhelm.
I know that demon well.
Yeah, you might have a clock demon. You might have a cruel calendar one. They have names like can kicker, toddler ostrich, you know. we find what works for you. We give it a cute name because the moment you give it a cute name, it takes some of the steam out of it. And it's not something that you have to be afraid of anymore or constantly run from.
Totally. As soon as you said that, I was like, all right, I like that. I'm going to be able to name it that when I notice it coming up for me because I know that.
I could use a clock demon personally. I've got the opposite problem.
I'm your clock demon, I think.
That's true.
Michelle's your clock demon. Hey, maybe that's a Halloween costume idea. Clock demon.
I love it. So you spoke a little bit about your own personal experience with burnout. So here you are now helping people through that. Yeah. What got you to this point through that experience that you spoke of?
Yeah. So I at the time I didn't realize that I was being exceptional by having a burnout at 31, but apparently I was being exceptional by having a burnout at 31. I had a stroke at work.
And that's crazy. At 31 years old.
At 31 years old. And if I can just like layer a couple layers on top of that, I'm a former Division I athlete. I was a distance runner for the U of M.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
At the time I was 31, I was a daily urban bike commuter. My wife and I shared a car and she did in-home visits for her work. So I basically was on the bike 90% of the time. I almost never had a car. So I was biking all over the place. I was taking all my vitamins. I was staying hydrated. I was almost a vegetarian. Like I was doing everything right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Except that I was suppressing all of the warning signals that my body was giving me that I was stressed out at too elevated of a stressed out level for too many seconds per day. And I'd been doing that for decades, 2.5 decades at that point. So I'm sitting at work and at an architecture firm, and I had two monitors in front of me. And I don't know if you've ever seen the software that architects use to create construction documents, but it's very, very detailed. There's a lot of small lines and words and numbers, and there's a lot of zooming in and zooming out. And you need like a lot of landscape. So I'm surrounded by these two monitors. And I remember that I had something very urgent to work on that day. And so I'm really concentrated and I'm really just in it. And all of a sudden I can't see the whole landscape of what I'm looking at. And my first thought was, how am I going to move my head so I can patch together all the lines and see the deadline thing? Like my first thought wasn't like, oh, Laurie, something's going on with your vision.
Right.
So I spent a couple minutes trying to continue to see this, and then I couldn't. So I closed my eyes, probably for 4 seconds, gave it a long time. I looked away at the wall. Maybe it's just eye strain. I tried to, and it just kept getting bigger. And what it was like a jagged artifact, almost like an arch, but like a jagged artifact across my vision that I couldn't see. And then the headache hit. And I lived in Central America. I had dengue fever at the time. That was the worst headache I had ever imagined was even possible. This was way worse than that. And it occurred to me I'm sitting at my desk, and one of the architects in the firm had been a nurse before she was an architect. So instead of picking up my desk phone and beep, boop, 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 calling Meredith, I stood up. I walked about 100 feet across a polished concrete floor. And I walked up to Meredith and I said, "Excuse me, Meredith, I'm having a hard time doing my work because I can't see and I have a raging headache." So Meredith was in a swivel chair like I am. She instantly stands up. You know how nurses can do this. She grabs my shoulders. She turns me around in a dance and she pushes me down into her chair and she looks me dead in the eyes and said, "Don't stand up." And then she disappeared. And I was like, so the thought going through my brain is, well, Meredith is kind of freaking out. That was kind of, she took it up a notch. And
Right.
she didn't drive that day, but she came back with somebody who had driven that day. And 2 minutes later, I was in Maria's car driving to the ER.
Wow.
And I had for some reason, I thought it was urgent to grab my bicycle pannier on my way out. So I'm sitting in the wheelchair in the ER with my pannier on my lap. And the thoughts that were going through my head is, God, now I'm going to have to stay late at work.
Yeah.
I got to find a way to get back to the office. My bike is
Wow.
there. I'm going to be biking home in the dark. Like, these are the thoughts that are going through my head. So,
Yeah.
long story short, the doctor had me there for a while, couldn't find a reason to admit me, didn't really want to discharge me. Bless her heart, Maria stayed the whole time, even though I told her to go home. She brought me home. And the crazy thing is I don't remember the day after that. I have zero memories of that because it was just like another day.
Yeah.
I probably got a ride to work, and I definitely biked home that night.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wish I could tell you that burnout event was a wake-up call for me, but it really wasn't. I was just like, well, I guess I didn't die, and I don't have to go back to the hospital, so I guess I'll go back to this deadline thing that now I'm late on.
Right.
So I kept operating like that, and 7 years later, I was in a different job, a really amazing dream job that I totally loved, and I was kicking ass in. And I got to the point where I was really embarrassed of my work output because I was super distracted. Like, focus was almost impossible. And my body was at work, but my brain was just like everywhere else. And then I also couldn't leave work at work. I would bring it home. And so I wasn't really present at home. And our kids were really little at that point. And I was kind of like really mad all the time. And I had a really short fuse. And I kind of just got to the point where I was like, I'm so embarrassed about my performance in this job. I just kind of have to quit.
Wow.
That was the second burnout event. And that one felt more like walking around the world with 3 sopping wet wool blankets on my head. Like I was just kind of like separated from everything.
Sure.
So 3 years later, I think I'll take an air quotes easier job, managing high stakes construction. That was my version of an easier job. Time will heal. So 3 years later, I was like, I still have no fuse. It's still coming out sideways at home. What am I doing? And at this point, I think I'm 41 or something. And there's really long life in my lineage. And I was like, I can't do 5.5 more decades like this.
Yeah.
And actually, you asked me what it was. That's what it was.
That was the
I
moment.
can't do 5.5 more decades like this.
Mhm.
And I just started learning. And I started questioning. And I started asking for help. And I started allowing help to come. And at some point in there, in the next couple of years, I found Joe Dispenza. And the way that he writes and the way that the books are written and the way that he cites scientific sources in it clicked for me, and it allowed me to fall into it. And I started feeling better. And at that point, when I found his work, I'd already been doing like headspace meditation, I think for about 6 years, but I was like pretty mediocre. I was like pretty C- about meditating, but I had a little bit of a base so I could kind of get into his meditations. And then I figured out how to heal. I got help healing. I took it on as like a certificate. Like I studied and studied and studied. And I cracked the code about what worked for me. And then once I was feeling better and my life started to get better, my physical, everything started to get better. My relationship started to get better. I finally was like, well, okay, what do I actually want to do with my life? And that's how Via Lucent started. Was in that moment of, I feel well enough to be creative. I feel well enough to ask the question, who do I want to be? What do I want my life to look like? What's a version of my life that feels better? What does exalted Laurie do in this moment? And that's when Via Lucent came to be.
Wow. It's a similar, I mean, definitely I didn't have a stroke and I didn't experience burnout in quite the same ways, but there was a point, I think, for me too, where it was like, I can't live feeling this way for the next however long. Something needs to happen, something needs to change. And actually Joe Dispenza was for me as well, like the first introduction to some of these ideas. And I was immediately just it was the science too. Like you said, it was some of these things that he backed up in science. And it was just like, yes, yes, yes. So I want to continue to talk about your story. But for listeners, we've talked about Joe Dispenza a couple of times. He's come up, but I don't think that we've ever defined or given any real context into his work and his ideas and what he does. So if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, he won't return our emails or DMs or.
Really, Zach? That's super weird. I don't understand why he doesn't have time for you.
If you could be his representative today. Can you just give us a little like Joe Dispenza 101 for anybody that might not know who he is or be familiar?
Yeah, so another piece of this is 11 months ago, I got licensed to deliver his work.
All right.
So I actually am one of 350 people on the planet who really is authorized to do this. So the way that I'm going to go about this is hopefully building the on-ramp to understanding what his work is. If you've read any of his books, you know that he suffered a really intense accident. I think in the 80s, he was his late 20s or early 30s. He was a young person. He was in a triathlon and got hit by a vehicle and had a really intense spinal injury. And the doctors said, we need to fuse plates to your body or you won't move again. And he said he'd been doing yoga at that point. He knew how much rotation and flexibility we have in our spines. And he was like, I don't want a rigid spine. And so he refused surgery against everybody's advice. And he'd been a chiropractor already at this point. Like he knew the anatomy of this. He knew what he was doing. And he just got really serious about healing his own body, and he did. He's a fully mobile 60-something-year-old person today, and this decades later. So he had that experience, and then he dove really, really deep into spontaneous remissions and all sorts of the ancients and what we know from healing and what we know from energy and what we know from neuroscience and what we know from epigenetics. And he's just a really dogged, intense human who put it all together. So that's, like you, Michelle, that's what helped me get into it, is like, wow, there are sources cited, right? Like real sources cited. And through his work in the last 5 years or so, they've, published peer review research studies of his work in reputable publications, right? So this continues to help me. Like there are scientists following her around being like, what is happening at these retreats? So the core of what he's doing is saying, I want to teach you how your human body ends up being conditioned to the life that you live every day, and how you tend to be conditioned more easily to living in survival. And by what he means by living in survival is feeling emotions that are like anger, rage, jealousy, judgment, resentment, depression, sadness, anxiety. All of these fall into the category of living in survival, and how your human body is more prone to be conditioned to that than it is prone to be conditioned to emotions like calm, joy, peace, love, etc. So he really goes through thoroughly and teaches people how to understand what's going on in their own bodies, and gives you very, very practical tools about how to move out of survival mode into creation mode. And if I can go back into my story just for a second, it was after I became a student of how to heal, and it wasn't just Dispenza's work, it was a whole bunch of work. It was when I got to the moment that I felt better, and had enough resiliency to actually ask myself the question, what do I want my life to be like? Because it was in that moment that I was able to create again. And what I've learned from Dispenza is that, and there's a study on this with a cited source, most of us spend about 70% of our day in survival mode. I didn't say 17, I said 70. Most of us spend 70% of our day in survival mode. And when we're in that mode, we can't do anything new. We are very self-focused because survival mode is all about self-preservation and staying alive. So we're selfish, we're self-aggrandizing, we're self-centered, we're self-involved. We don't listen very well. We're pretty garbage at collaboration, and creativity is totally offline.
Mhm.
So for the people who I work with, why this worked for me is like, oh, wow, living in stress for like 4 decades has taken a toll on my life, right?
Mhm.
So learning how to move out of it and then learning how to be more in creation mode than in survival mode is what personally helped me. And that's what his work is all about, is giving you really practical tools to notice when you're in survival mode and move into creation mode. And one of those tools is meditation. He's really, really well known for the style of meditation that he does. And the whole way the whole thing is designed is based on functional MRI scans of what's happening in the brain and the body. And they've played with the sound, and they've played with the way that his voice works, and they've played with the music that goes along with it. So the meditations that you get from him are the ones that were more effective at changing your brainwave state so that you could become more impressionable, so you could rewire your life.
I didn't know that because I've listened to his meditations too, and I'm like, gosh, they're so intense. There are times when I'm ready to meditate, and like that's what I'm in the mood for, and then there's times where I'm like, I don't know that I can handle Dispenza today. But
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. There's a rhyme and reason for
And
that.
Michelle, your response to this is actually very typical. A lot of people are like, but I can't with his voice.
Right, right.
I'm allergic to his voice. His voice really irks me. It reminds me of my, high school wrestling coach or whatever. I can't, So, and to be totally fair, he doesn't talk the way he sounds in his He's intentionally doing stuff with his voice
Sure.
because he studied it and he knows that it's more effective in helping you shift your brainwave state so you can rewire your life.
Interesting.
What, like, for the listeners, I mean, I've seen the documentary Heal. I've read Becoming Supernatural. There's some crazy results, some stuff that's like kind of unbelievable to somebody that's anchored in a materialist worldview. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people. So share from your perspective some of the more interesting findings to you, some of the more woo-woo shit that's like, whoa, I can't believe the mind can do that. What are some of those things?
Zach, again, a lot of people bring this up. They're like, well, that's totally impossible. They're making that up. They placed people in the audience. This is snake oil stuff. I was skeptical about that when I first got in. I had heard about some of the spontaneous remission stuff, and I was like, bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit. Like, that's not true. And then I experienced one. I want to be totally clear. I've got nothing to gain by telling you this story.
Yeah.
I'm not on his, I'm licensed to deliver his content, but I'm not on his payroll.
Yeah.
I went to my first retreat. So I did about 3.5 years of Dispenza meditations on my own before I went to a retreat.
You've been?
I've been to 2.
Okay.
I've been to 2.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I went to his retreat, and a good friend of mine had just been to one, and she told me some of what happened to her. And really what I took away from her story was just like, go. Like, I don't really have words. I feel amazing. Go. And so I went, and I knew it would be transformational because I knew his work. But we were doing, I think it was a 7-day retreat. This was earlier on, like maybe the second day or something. And one of these researchers that follows him around that had just published the paper, where they showed that meditators could intentionally increase a specific protein in their bloodstream, just from meditating, and that all of the meditators all increased this specific protein just by having the intention of doing it. And then the scientist lays out everything a protein does in your body, which I'm sure I had heard in like junior year biology in high school, but I certainly didn't remember. And I'm listening to it, and he's like, proteins make stomach enzymes. And I went, oh, because I was born into a body that couldn't digest effectively onions, garlic, and everything in the allium family.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Just kneecap
Right?
the culinary experience.
I know, man. It was like being lactose intolerant, but it was allium stuff. And so, Zach, because you had that big reaction, imagine going into a restaurant and ordering food. What would you have to do?
Get a salad?
Yeah, I mean,
No, the dressing.
Oh, wow. I'll get a dressingless salad.
get a dressingless salad and some bread and butter.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a pretty
Doesn't
low
sound
quality
fun.
culinary experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it clicks. This researcher is like, proteins make stomach enzymes, and all of the meditators who knew the name of the protein, they got a picture of it and they knew the name of it, they all increased that protein. And I was like, I can make the enzyme. Because my body was lacking the enzyme that broke that down.
Sure.
So I happened to catch the researcher during a break outside of the ballroom. And I was like, Dr. Hemmel, help. How do I find the name of the enzyme that digests allium? And he's looking at me and he's like, try PubMed. And I was like, what's PubMed? So I'm sitting on my phone. He gives me, on the escalator, he gives me a 20-second tutorial on how to look on PubMed. And I'm like, I can't find it. I don't know. I'm inept at doing this. I don't know what I'm looking for. And then I was just like, Laurie, just go into the meditation and be able to go in any restaurant you go into and order whatever you want.
Sure.
You don't need the name of it. You don't need to know. Your body knows.
Sure.
So we do the next meditation. It's a single 90-minute meditation. And my intention is I eat whatever I want. And I experience the emotions of being in a restaurant and just like closing my eyes and touching the menu and like enjoying whatever comes at me. And it tastes good and I feel good for the next 3 days. And like the whole thing is just like delightful. And it is a very intense meditation for me. It's like a euphoric moment for me. And I don't know how I know, but I knew in that moment before the meditation was even done, I knew I had fixed it.
Yeah.
But I was totally unwilling to try it in a room of 1,500 people that I didn't know. Because the result of eating allium when you don't have the enzyme is you get dragon farts. So I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I didn't.
good.
I didn't try it in the ballroom, but I tried it when I got home. And here's the thing: onions and garlic taste good now. They
Wow.
tasted terrible before, and I was hypersensitive. Like I could taste onion powder in a dressing. It's done. It was a single meditation. I eat raw onions. I eat cooked onions. I eat garlic. I eat allium. I don't ask for ingredient lists. I don't send food back. It tastes really good. You know what else tastes really good now? Hoppy beer tastes really good now. It tasted like garbage before. You know what else tastes really good now? Scotch tastes good now. I never knew what you all were talking about. So Zach, you asked, there's these things that you can't believe. I would put that in the category of bullshit, Laurie.
Yeah, definitely.
Here I am. Had
So
raw,
this
raw
was-
onions last night for dinner, and I'm fine.
This was one moment, one meditation, made this decision. And then after that, it was fine.
That was in late September of 2023.
Wow.
I've done no touch-up meditations on it of any kind.
Wow.
I don't even think about it anymore. It's just like it's done.
That's crazy.
But
you want to
that's
hear
a
a
big
weirder
piece
one?
of it.
Yes.
That's a big
Yeah.
piece
Yes,
of
I
it,
do.
right? Is the knowing that it's done. Yes.
It's-
Tell us.
It's
tell
if I
us
can
more.
substitute one word, it's believing that it's done,
Right.
and behaving that it's done, and
Right.
becoming that it's done.
Right.
Those are his words: believe, behave, become. It's essential. So
Yeah.
Zach, can I tell you a weirder one?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So I was a D1 athlete. I ran for the Gophers, and in my youth, I could run regularly, reliably a sub 6-minute mile. I had what they told me was a career-ending injury when I was 19. It truncated my my career at the U of M. And between 19 and 42, I would try to boot up running and fail. I tried and failed at least a dozen times. And I just was basically, a person who didn't really exercise and had foot pain all the time. And, it just was my life. Around the age of 42, 43, somewhere in there, I was like, I don't want to keep living like this. That doctor, I don't want to believe his story. I'm not going to believe his story anymore. And I healed the foot pain. So about a year and a half ago, maybe, I started to get curious about how fast I could run a mile again. And like, I got nothing to prove. I don't have anything to prove to anybody, but I was like, could I do it if it was fun? Could I run real fast and enjoy it? Because my training before, I was trained as this hyper overachiever. All of my athletic stuff before was like, be as mean to yourself as possible to get the best
Sure.
result possible, like push through anaerobic, focus.
Yeah.
And so I started getting really curious, and I was dropping my mile time by like 20, 30, 40 seconds every time I was timing one and trying it. And I was like, this is really cool. I love this. So I set out and I was like, I'm going to run a sub 7-minute mile only if I can do it through being present, through being coherent in my heart, and enjoying it. And last October, I did it for the first time.
Fuck
And to be
yeah.
fair, I had trained intentionally all year. My body was in great shape and I did it. And I was super proud of myself. And I was like, this is a fun experiment. So here's the weird one. Between last October and right now, I've had a series of leg pain, weird stuff. I haven't been able to train. I'm probably 20 pounds heavier than I was last October. And about 6 weeks ago, we had another opportunity to time a mile at the gym. And I was like, let's try. Whatever. I got nothing to lose. If I start fast and I die, I'll just turn the treadmill off and I don't care. And so the coach had us, I run at Orange Theory. So the coach had us all stop the treadmills and I just dropped into my heart, like 2 breaths just dropped into my heart. And with intention, I just decided I am the version of me who thinks it's really fun to run super fast. And I didn't give a shit about the outcome. Like, it didn't matter. I was playing. And in that moment, there's one detail. I learned how to meditate while running on the treadmill at Orange Theory. I only meditate now for an hour with the boom boom music and the coach. So I'm meditating the whole time I'm there. So I drop into my heart. I'm the version of me who thinks it's super fun to run really fast. And I feel her arrive. I have a full body sensation, a warm glow squeeze. And I start giggling. It was like, oh, this is cool. And literally, like 2 seconds later, the coach is like, okay, go. And I know the number I need to punch to get a sub 7-minute mile. So I punched it and I start running and I'm like still giggling because I'm glowing and she's here and it was easy. And I'm just like kind of euphoric. And then I'm like, oh, Laurie, you dumbass, you didn't punch the right number. This is way too slow. You botched it, you know? And I look down and it's the right number. And now I'm laughing. I'm running 8.6 miles on the treadmill, laughing, glowing with a squeezed love of another version of me. And I swear to you, it felt totally different. And again, I'm 20 pounds heavier. I haven't trained. Like it's, like none of this is true. And I held on to her for the whole 7 minutes. I did another sub 7-minute mile.
Wow.
And as I'm walking, I grab a sip of water and I'm done. And I was like, oh my God, it's that easy.
Wow.
It's just deciding, allowing, and enjoying.
Yeah, which takes practice, honestly. Like it and I've said this in episodes before where some of these things, some of these ideas are so simple, but the simplicity of it is what makes it so hard to believe and therefore what makes it hard to do and to execute, because it's like, no, it can't be that simple. It can't be that simple. But once you overcome that idea, it's like it is. It actually is that simple.
I think getting to the deciding point where you understand that I can change something about me. I think that's like over 50% of the battle. In your experience with clients, is that the case?
That is totally the case, and I love that you asked that question because, Michelle, one of the things is it's so hard. It can't possibly be that easy. I have struggled against this for years. It can't possibly be that easy. And Zach, to your point is, yes, believing that it can be done is everything. And Dispenza talks a lot about the 4-minute mile, that for years people were trying to break a 4-minute mile. Men were trying to break the 4-minute mile over and over and over and over again. And then one guy did it. And then very quickly on his heels, like boom, 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 they all did it.
Yeah.
So we've got a woman who's about to break the 4-minute mile. Faith Kipyegon is about to do it. And I know the second she does it, there'll be a whole bunch of other ones. So Zach, the belief that what I'm experiencing, that I've always done ass-kickery, I've always had a solution, I've always found a way through, and now I'm stuck. Just believing that you can get beyond it is an essential step. You really can't get anywhere until you believe that.
Yep.
What do you think is going on? I mean, I know that this is maybe not going to be a fair question because I'm going to elevate us a little bit to perhaps the metaphysical, wherever you want to take this. This touches manifestation. This touches perhaps ontology of the mind might be the basis of reality, not, that's not material things. Why is this happening? Why can we do this? Why do we have to learn this skill? Yeah, I mean, that's what I've been thinking about as you've been discussing
Yeah.
your personal experience with this.
So I'm going to do my best to decouple from Dispenza because I don't want to misrepresent him here. I'm going to answer as Laurie McGinley. He
All right.
does talk about this, but I don't want to misrepresent his work. Zach, I have always felt known is, if that's a word, that we just do this. I've done it countless number of times in my life with little things and big things. I've helped other people do it even before I was doing Via Lucent.
Mhm.
I've always been drawn to people who I could feel were right on the edge of it, and I've always just wanted to give them just a little boop, and then it goes. One of the things Dispenza does bring in is that humans have the ability to do this because of a gland in our brain.
Hmm.
And over not centuries, over generations of being trapped in survival mode and being over-focused on the five senses. The five senses connect us to the 3D physical world. Over generations of being over-focused on that just so that we could stay alive, we forgot how to use this latent part of our brain. And all mammals have a pineal gland.
Mhm.
It's what helps homing pigeons get home.
Mhm.
It's what helps sea turtles go across the ocean back to the beach where they were born. And what he's doing in his work is training us how to use it again.
Mhm.
So we literally all have the neurology to do this. We have the biology to do this. We have the neurochemistry to do this. And he's training people how to use intention and attention to manifest. And I know that word is
Right.
pretty loaded. Another way to say that is with intention and attention to have the life you want to have,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
to perceive the world the way you want to perceive the world, to see changes in the world based on your change in perception.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Does that
why
answer your
I-
question?
Yeah, and like why I asked, it's because have you heard of the horseshoe theory before, where two
No.
totally different, often oppositional parties like Alex Jones and Goop sell the same products, converge on the same understanding from radically different places. The woo-woo spiritualists have known this, and it's been ancient wisdom for as long as humans have been around. And an atheist scientist, that's not Dispenza, but atheist scientists can go, yeah, attention, intention, like they converge on the same answer from a scientific point of view. And so it's like, for me, expressive of like a truth about ultimate reality, which is the mind is the basis of everything, and we're way more powerful than we often understand we are. My experience with this in my life has been when Dispenza will talk about being addicted to a state that isn't serving us, which even prevents you from getting to the place where you can go, oh, change is possible. Or I might even like this negative state because my body is so used to it. And I'm like, this is just what normal is. You don't realize that there's levels to this thing, and you can, access a different level through attention and intention. And I'm just now personally animated by that understanding, and it's been helpful in my life. And so, yeah, that's just what I've been thinking about.
I appreciate that.
No question there.
If I could add something on, one of the things that I'm really, really aware of is I immersed myself in this because of that thought. I can't spend 5.5 more decades like this.
Mhm.
At that point, I didn't have any like scary medical event like at 31, but I was like, I quit.
Mhm.
I can't, I have to stop. And that was kind of like the motivation to go full out.
Right.
To remove all of the safety, everything that had been holding me back from experiencing this. And one of the challenges is that thing that I've been obsessed with for 35 years of how do humans do massive transformations, generally those massive transformations happen because you have to, you get some scary news from your doctor and you don't have a choice anymore, or there's some event in your life, an accident or an injury that happens, or you have a major social change in your life or a major emotional change in your life. One of the challenges that you're talking about is how do we do this when there's no triggering event?
Right.
How we're just like, our life is like okay or like pretty good, but like we'd like to see it be a lot better. I actually think it's a lot harder to do in that moment.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because every time you change, you get really uncomfortable.
Right.
And if your life is okay and it's pretty good, what's the motivation to be uncomfortable all the time?
Right. Right. Yep. Absolutely.
I sound just like that. In the car when Michelle was reading Joe Dispenza and I wasn't yet exposed, I sounded just like that.
I pushed it really hard at the beginning. You have to read this. It's mind blowing. Like,
Michelle, what
no,
got you
what
into
else
it?
is up?
Do you remember what the thing was that helped you just kind of go?
Oh yeah, for sure. So we tried to get pregnant for a couple of years, and I had a few miscarriages, and I also, prior to that, we had just like a massive shift in I mean, without getting too into it, like our friend group like massively changed. I had lost a lot of friends. My social world kind of blew up. There were just a lot of events that I think had happened within the course of about 5 years. And then on top of that, we were trying to get pregnant. That was like the focus. My body, I think, like physically was experiencing a lot of like just back and forth hormonally. So I think it was the combination of a lot of things going on emotionally, physically, and finally me just being like, I feel fucked. Like I just feel like energetically drained, physically, mentally, emotionally. Like I don't have anything left to give anybody. I don't want to have friends. Like as much as I feel like I don't want to see anybody, I don't want to talk to anybody, I don't want to do anything, and I don't want to feel this way anymore. And I think it maybe started first with it was a book about acupuncture. That's where it started. But then slowly I Dispenza was the next, and I would just became obsessed. At that point, I think I was already meditating, and feeling that was making just a massive difference with like my nervous system. And eventually these things that I started to tell myself, it was like I could feel my energy shifting. I could feel my energy changing. I think that's where like I could feel it myself. And I know that he wasn't maybe in the best place either, maybe not willing quite yet at that point, able to admit that. But I was like, experience what I'm experiencing. This is so I'm feeling it. I feel the change energetically. I feel what's happening. And it's been a process ever since then, obviously. I mean, like you said with you too, it hasn't just been Dispenza, it's been a number of things. But yeah, it was definitely transformative to me, and just like being able to shift the thought, allowing myself to believe it, and coming out of a meditation and being like, okay, I'm this person now, and it helps for sure.
So what I want to just highlight, if I can, that you did it feel like you got to a tipping point?
For sure, 100%. Yes, it was a tipping
point. And then
point.
here's the highlighter. You were listening and meditating, and you had an experience where you felt better.
Yes.
That's usually all it takes.
Right.
So for us as humans, I know we think we're really good thinkers, right? But the reality is, as humans, we're these messy feeling creatures who have thoughts.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's the moment when we can, and this is Dispenza's word again, is the thought is what allows you to make a choice and have an action that creates an experience. It's the end product of that experience is the emotion. That's when it becomes bodily. So his words, thoughts are the language of your brain. Feelings are the language of the body. Your thoughts are neurotransmitters moving between neurological networks in your neocortex. You're listening to me with your neocortex right now. When you accept, believe, and surrender to the thoughts, maybe in your case, whatever you were accepting, believing, and surrendering to triggered your limbic brain to create a neuropeptide, which travels between your brain and your body. It goes down your cerebral spinal fluid to whatever corresponding hormonal center that matches the level of thoughts you were having. So if you're having loving thoughts, it's going to go to the gland near your heart. That gland's going to get a signal, and it's going to release some molecules, some hormones into your bloodstream. That's your feeling. So your feelings are molecules in your bloodstream. And the moment you had an experience where you felt better, it enriches the neurological connections where your thoughts happen. And that's usually all it takes to start the flywheel for people.
Right. Yeah.
Because once you've had the experience and you feel different, now you're motivated. It's kind of like me
Right.
with the onions.
Yep.
Man, that
Yep.
first time I ate onions and I was like, wow, these actually taste good. I think I might do this again.
Motivated by onions, man.
Motivated by
Love it.
onions.
The onion in the stick, not the carrot in the stick.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a question that I think other people that are maybe just beginning this work or skeptical or fearful might have, and that's, how do you handle? It's a lot of responsibility to realize what is happening in the way that you've outlined it here.
Yeah.
It's much more comfortable to go, I'm my thoughts. My body just, it's a machine. It does
Yep.
its thing. I'm not responsible for it, other than
Yeah.
like, say my choices of eating or drinking, things like that. Like, that's a safe, comfortable place to be. And it's an existential jolt to go, whoa, I have a lot of responsibility. I can take control of this. And people are averse to that.
Yeah.
And so
Are you?
I was at first. This was my experience. It was just like, fuck, man, life just got a lot harder. I'm so like the terrain of my responsibility is so much bigger all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to do about that? Like, I'm free to choose, right? Like, I love Sartre, and he says anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. Like, freedom ostensibly is this great thing, but it's coupled with so much anxiety on their side, because like for generations of humanity, we didn't make choices. We lived the same lives that our parents did, and everything was exactly the same, and it was all laid out for you. There was no anxiety of freedom, right? And so the Dispenza method and the awakening to the power of the mind to heal the body suddenly casts you into this like void of, oh my God, I'm free and I'm anxious. That's maybe that happened to me because I run anxious, but I know it can happen to other people, and I'm certain that you've dealt with clients that feel the same way.
Zach, I really appreciate what a delicious description you just gave of that. I think a lot of people would really connect with the way that you said that. And what I've known in my own experience, and by the way, you too, I meditate every day. I haven't missed a day in almost 3 years. I can't imagine missing a day. I'm a new person every day. I hit this shit hard, right? And so I'm constantly in a state of change, so much to the fact that it's almost become a little bit too comfortable to be constantly in a state of change, and it's time to take it up a notch. So what we know about humans, as you just so beautifully said, is that we tended to live on the same land for generation after generation. It was all laid out, and we didn't take risks. We evolved to crave known, predictable, survivable environments. If we could predict what was going to happen, our chances for survival went way up. Now, the second you do something or go somewhere where you're maybe losing control, whether that's perceived or real, maybe you can't quite predict what's about to happen because maybe it's a new environment or things just aren't going your way, your evolved systems in your body say, whoa, Bob, there, come on back there. What are you doing? Get you but right back in here.
With a Minnesota accent.
Yeah,
and
sure,
everything.
Joe Marge is going to scold ya. Right? So that what you're talking about and calling it anxiety is really the human evolved response of, we have infinite free will. I firmly believe this. You can make your life whatever you want it to be. And there is a lot of discomfort in the realization of that. It's way more comfortable to just stay on the farm where your family has been for generations. It gets really uncomfortable. And even just the thought of like, I have infinite free will. But then once you have an experience with it, that's when transformation gets really hard. The hardest part is not taking that first step. It's taking that step over and over and over and dealing with the discomfort and becoming acclimated to the discomfort and trusting that you're going to be okay in the discomfort. That's the moment transformation happens. And maybe even, Zach, just knowing every time you get out of your silo, it's going to feel weird. And the weirder it feels, the more you're doing it right. Maybe even just the knowledge of that. I'm curious if that addresses your experience of it at all.
Yeah, 100%. Yes. And we've had a couple discussions on the podcast that have broached this terrain. There's a couple ways I could go now. Just going to feel into it.
Trust it.
Yeah. Like, so this can work the other way. So how does the power of the mind and repeatable looping thoughts that you don't address, how do they then over time cause the body to constrict for disease to happen, and so because we just talked about the positive aspects of the change, but then this side of it, how does that work, and what are some known examples from either your own experience or Dispenza's work?
Yeah, so Dispenza talks a lot about this, how the body becomes the mind. And really what he's talking about is the thoughts that you've had often, that you've rehearsed and repeated, you have a neurological network for them. Can you remember your birthday? You have a neurological network for that because you can remember it. Okay. So everything you can remember, you've rehearsed it enough that you have a neurological network in your brain for it. And so what Hebbian law just says is if it fires together, it wires together. What that means is if you've had the thought before, it's just easier to have again. It doesn't mean you're going to have it again. It's just easier to have it again. And thoughts create this reaction that I described to you with the limbic brain and the cerebral spinal fluid, and it goes to the corresponding hormonal center. Well, once you have hormones in your bloodstream, your body becomes conditioned to those hormones. So Dispenza also says that by the time you're 35, 95% of who you are is a set of unconscious automatic thoughts, actions, and feelings. So 95% of who you are by the time you're in midlife is just happening without you being aware of it. And your body's becoming conditioned to those hormones or molecules in your bloodstream. So when he says this is, for example, I was a very rageful person for 4 decades, but I didn't want you to know that. So I hid it. So
Are you
my
hiding it
body,
right now?
no, I've healed this. This is kind of like the onion thing. It's done.
Yeah.
Right. And not that it doesn't come back. The ire still rises, but it feels like a little dragon that's laying next to me. And I'm like, lay down there, buddy. We're not going to melt anybody with our words today. We're not doing that. Right. So when at the point when I was, at the point, honestly, when I was a year in, my body was so conditioned to the product of my adrenal glands that it was conditioned to it. It was addicted to it. It craved it. And at the point when your body, and by the way, we're all addicted to the emotions that we feel every day, whatever they are.
Right.
My body could find a reason to be angry better than my conscious mind could. And so that's what he means when he says the body becomes the mind. If your cells have gone too long without getting their hit of whatever hormone it's used to experiencing, your brain will scan the environment for you and cherry pick, like an unethical researcher, cherry pick the data that supports you getting that chemical released again.
That's why I get so mad when you're like chewing your cereal super loud, I think.
Your brain is like, I haven't had my hit in a while, so I'm going to hone in on Zach's, mouth sounds, and now I'm going to get annoyed. Yeah. Love it. Yeah. I'm so glad we resolved this for you two today.
Me too. I've been wondering where this is rooted from, and I've figured it out.
But if you can imagine this, if you know anybody who you can say, well, that person is just, fill in the blank emotion, whatever it is, guilty or low self-esteem or angry or depressed or whatever it is, that person's body can find reasons to feel that better than your body can.
Sure.
The body becomes very effective at staying in the known. And what it knows is whatever that and your body doesn't know what the molecule it is. It doesn't know what depression is. It just wants the chemical signature. So when the body has become the mind, and this is all Dispenza's work, is noticing how your body is triggering your thoughts, how it's causing your actions unconsciously, becoming consciously aware of that, and then saying, do I want to keep living like that?
Right.
And then his work is the formula for how to unlearn that habit and learn the one that you design.
Right. Yep.
And what you're really doing is you're rewiring your brain. You're allowing those connections to prune apart, because they prune apart if you don't have that thought. And you're allowing your body to become neurochemically conditioned to the life that you want to live. So every day in meditation, what I'm doing is intentionally flooding my body with the hormones of future Laurie's life. Because at the point when my body is addicted to her life, my brain, like an unethical researcher, will scan my environment and find that data. That's what manifesting is.
Take us inside of your meditation. Make that real for people, because this is really, really key. What exactly are you doing in that moment when you're visualizing what's going on?
Zach, I love this question. I'm wagging my metaphorical tail a little bit.
So you perk up.
So I'll bring you through this morning. So I'm healing some scar tissue right now that's very painful on my body. So I did a Dispenza meditation called Love Your Body. And what he does in all of the meditations, the basic formula is slow your body down, drop into your heart, feel your body, relax your body, let go of your thoughts, become coherent. And coherent in the sense of my mind's not racing and popping from thing to thing to thing. So my heart rate becomes very even, right? I am becoming coherent. I'm relaxing. I'm dropping into alpha brain waves and theta brain waves if I can. So as I start this meditation, I know exactly what's happening. I'm becoming aware of the space around me because I know that helps me drop into alpha. I'm noticing my thoughts and I'm letting them go. I'm feeling my body and I'm filling my heart full of love. This is the start of flooding my body with the emotions of future Laura. I can feel it. I'm doing this because I can feel it when I'm doing this meditation. And then that particular meditation takes you through feel the love in your heart and expand it to your whole body. Love your body with your heart. So this is a laying down one. I'm laying there and I'm loving my body with the love in my heart. And I'm not having thoughts that are racing, or if I'm having them, I'm noticing them and I'm coming back. My breathing rate is really slow at this point. My heart rate is really even at this point. My brain waves are in alpha or maybe theta if I'm lucky. I'm now very, very susceptible and impressionable. In those brainwave states, we're very malleable. And so I have my intention. I have smooth, pain-free skin. And I feel that life. I feel my body with smooth, pain-free skin. And I'm smiling thinking about it right now because it is so fucking good. And I'm using my brain to run my hands over the skin and it's smooth and it doesn't hurt. And I'm noticing how I'm wearing my clothes through the day and none of my clothes are brushing on it. And how I have full range of motion again, like everything's healed. And I'm just feeling all of the ways in my life that this is done. And I'm believing it. I don't know if there's a neurochemical of belief, but if there is, I'm doing the neurochemical of belief and I'm just experiencing it. And then, he kind of gently brings you back. And then I open my eyes and I go about my day. And when I start my day like that, I remember to feel that Laurie's body.
Mhm.
That she exists. Just like I told you on the treadmill, the Laurie who thinks it's really fun to run super fast dropped in, she exists too. Crabby, diseased Laurie who stayed on the path that I was on, she exists too. It's the intention of saying, I'm going to rehearse the life I want.
Yeah.
So that my body becomes conditioned to it. And that's how I'm healing these scars.
Yeah. I think a piece of it that can be hard for people, if you're just starting to understand these ideas, is to your point, it took a while before you could even get to the point of
It did.
identifying what is it that I want? Who is it that I want to be? Because that's a really important piece. And sometimes there's work to be done before you can even get to that point and say, this is what I want and who I want to embody and be.
And Michelle, back to an earlier point, once you see that version that you think might be real is possible.
Yeah.
And maybe even it allows you to dream a little bit beyond what you didn't believe was possible before. We can kind of grow our understanding of what can be. And when we're kind of locked in and our body has become our mind and we're only focused on survival, we're really, really narrow focused and it's all about the self. And in that mode, it's really hard to do what you're talking about. Right. It's hard to even dream.
Right.
When I had to leave that job with the, wet wool blanket thing, I wasn't dreaming. I was just trying to march through my day. There was no resiliency there to dream.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
And I think that can be one of the hard things about Dispenza, that there's this perception that it takes years.
Yeah.
And it can, but it doesn't have to.
Right. Right. So with your own work and transitioning everything that you've been saying, obviously, is Dispenza, but there's Laurie there too. And I'm curious how all of that has influenced your work and then how you have infused your own methodologies. I know there's something called the dissolve that I'm curious to understand. So whether it be Dispenza or any of the other things that you've explored through your time healing, transforming, where does your work sit now and how has it come together and where do those ideas help to transform your clients?
So the dissolve is my framework that I developed. And I found Dispenza 6 years ago in 2019. And I'm not going to lie, his work is a huge piece of what I'm doing now. Yeah. And there was so much work before that. So I studied with Laura Day, who is a practical intuitive. I've always been very connected to the fact that I'm deeply intuitive. That has never been a question in my life. It's always been there. I have this one memory of right around the time I probably got my driver's license and I was in the car driving by myself and I don't even know, some new song was on the radio that I'd never heard before. And I was just singing along to it out loud. And I was with a friend shortly after that who heard it for the first time, and I was singing aloud, and she was like, wow, you really learned that fast. And I was like, you can't sing to new songs? What? Why can't you sing to new songs? And it's always felt like that I'm like 1 to 2 seconds ahead of whatever is there.
Sure.
Like I can't tell you who's going to win some sporting event in a year, but 1 to 2 seconds from now has always been very easy to access. So there's a piece of that. The dissolve really came out of what I've been able to accomplish in my own life. And I use the word dissolve because that's what it feels like. So when I become aware that I'm trying to climb Everest, with a huge pack and probably no support, and of course I'm doing it by myself because I'm trying to do ass kickery alone. When I become aware that I've slipped back into that and I'm like, oh, mountains aren't real. Why does this one feel real? Why am I on this mountain? Why am I here alone? What's in this pack? I start naming the things that got me there, a little bit like we were talking about the can kicker and the clock demon. I start naming them. The second phase of the dissolve is soften it. So this is what I've practiced internally for years, and I've formally guided people through in the last 6 years with my business, is all sorts of different ways to dissolve it. And there's lots of different ways to do this. And what's important is that my clients find something that works for them. Not everybody who hires me wants to go full woo. Sometimes we just stay in the neuroscience of it. And we stay in the practicality of it. And I'm like kind of doing it, but we don't have to talk about it. Some people are fully willing to talk about full woo and we just get, take the veil off and go for it. But what I'm doing when I'm guiding them through this is part of my intuitive ability that I've always had my whole life. And a side note to this, I am a registered architect, and I'm curious if I became one because of this. If you tell me what you want, you'll start talking about it kind of intellectually, like it feels like it's really up in your head and it's really full of thoughts. If you just start telling me what you want, I can feel it, like I'm there. And I can feel it in a way that's so real and so easy and so clear that I can create that volume for you. And it feels like a volume. I can create that space for you and I can bring you there. And then once you're there, I can help you feel it. And I can tell if you get overwhelmed because it's too new. If Aunt Marge is going to tell you to come back inside the farmhouse, and I'll bring you back.
Sure. So
really, truly what I'm doing with every client, whether we're talking about woo or not, is I'm taking you to the future you desire so that you can feel it. And I'm bringing you back before you get overwhelmed and your body learns the lesson that it's a bad idea to talk to me.
So take us through that. Like when I hear what you're saying, and I think I know what you're talking about, but somebody listening might be like, what, you're taking people somewhere they want to go, like what?
Yeah.
So like, help explain what that actually looks like.
Right. Like, it's not like Make-A-Wish, it's like.
Yeah. Well, in a way, Zach, it's a little bit like Make-A-Wish. I've never thought of that before. I mean, what is Make-A-Wish?
Well, it's a foundation for...
I know what Make-A-Wish. My nephew did a wish, you got a kid who's dying and really kind, lovely people who are like, let's bring some joy into this kid's life.
Yeah.
Hey, bud, what do you want? Let's go.
Let's go there. Yeah.
I mean, thank you. What a gift, Zach.
Yeah.
It's your Make-A-Wish.
I want to I want to get into this now. Like,
But she didn't answer my question.
Oh, sorry.
So explain what this is. So Michelle, to your
Yes.
point, I am being as literal as I possibly can be. And to be truth, there's obviously energy underneath this.
Yeah.
So here's what I have bodily, energetically, emotionally, physically, metaphysically experienced literally my whole life is that if I want to go somewhere, I just go. I'm in your house right now. It's not hard. Oh, now I'm back in my office.
Sure.
Now I'm in the house I grew up in. It's not hard. So it's how do I describe it? I love metaphor. How do I describe this? It's like Scotty. I just beam myself up.
So give me an example of a client coming to you and it's like, I'm explaining to you what I want. What do you do?
So a
In those
very
moments.
typical, not giving anybody's private data, a very typical thing
Yeah.
that people come to me and hire me for is I'm ready to level up.
Okay. Yeah.
I've tried X, Y, and Z. I'm stuck.
Mhm.
So we'll just take the example of leveling up as I'm ready to be VP of whatever.
Sure.
And so I say, tell me about VP and why you want it so bad. And honest to God, at this point, it doesn't matter what words come out of your mouth or if all you do is make sounds or if you do nothing. The second your attention
Mm-hmm.
goes to that reality, I tune into it and I allow myself to go with you.
Mm.
And what I've experienced for most people is that intention for them is really just an idea, which feels really 2D to me in my experience of it. And then once I'm there, it's almost like I can boop, 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 add the third dimension to it.
Mhm.
Remember I told you I'm a registered architect?
Mhm.
Do you think maybe that's why I became I don't know. I'm not
Yes.
practicing anymore. But the kind of architecture that I do now is I do it with
Right.
your dream, with your wish. And you're still talking about whatever you're talking about, and I'm super not listening. And I'm just building it. At the point when the last piece goes into place, I say, does it feel like this? Or something like that.
Mhm.
Or I pattern break you. And it feels like this. I bring you into, I'm reaching my hands forward. I bring you into it. And most people are like, yeah. VP of whatever does feel like that.
Yeah.
And then I, we spend some time there and I ask some more intellectual questions and they answer whatever they answer that I'm not listening to. And I make the model more robust. And then every time we talk, I bring them back there and I tweak the model. And here's what I know, and Dispenza will tell you this. It's the end product of the experience that produces the emotion, right?
Right. Yep.
Our frontal lobes are so amazing that we can create an experience with our thoughts that our body doesn't know isn't real. So I didn't have language for this until I found Dispenza, but what I'm doing with them is I'm allowing them to experience the neurochemicals of that reality so their body acclimates to it. Because the more time you spend in the thing that you want, the less your body fights you. And then once, we meet and we talk and we go and we come back and I build a model and they go and then the things that they go and do in between the times they talk get easier because I've helped them experience dissolving their mountain.
Mm-hmm.
The only way to get through an invisible barrier is to practice feeling safe on the other side of it. So and the reason I call myself a guide is I'm guiding you to that reality so you can practice dissolving it and softening it. Because once it's dissolved, the third step of the dissolve is you just sashay right through it. It's like not there. And you feel comfortable and you've acclimated to it and it's not weird anymore.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. You're dedicating time for them. Well,
Mhm.
they think that intellectually they're just explaining things to you, but you're helping to bring them to a place emotionally
Yeah.
that is required for them to essentially manifest what it is that they want themselves. But you're giving them the space and the guidance to do that, even sometimes without them realizing what's
I'm
actually happening.
a tour guide for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
won't tell any of your clients that you're not.
Yeah,
listening to them.
that
I
you're
don't
not
care.
listening
You can
to
tell
them.
them. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
So
It doesn't
I
change
wanna-
anything.
Right, the results speak for themselves.
You've been hinting at the intuition that's been with you your entire life.
Mhm.
The way you just described that dream architecture, I'll call it.
Sure. I love
Sounded a lot like a psychic. I'm not accusing you of being a psychic. You might be.
that. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and
Version of one.
you had this NDE as a very young person. I'm curious to hear about that, how you make sense of it, what you
Yeah.
can tell us about that, and how you've integrated that into your story from the capacity of sense making. And then this stroke at 31, like, do you have any thoughts of what you were here to do, and did your soul pre-plan anything? You know, your life has been more interesting than average. I'll say
Yeah.
that. And so you don't take that any way you want, but like that's a terrain. I really want to kind of start focusing on your understanding of you as a spiritual being.
Yeah. So I want to preface the NDE is I'm going to do my best, but I can't really make sense of this. I didn't have an NDE as a very young person. I was born blue. I mean, that's a very young person.
Right.
So my
The
umbilical cord
NDE
was
is
wrapped around my neck twice when I was born. And I really seriously was born blue. So I don't have data points that I can remember of my life before that. I wasn't in the air yet in my life before that. So it's always been a thing that I don't really know how to make sense of. And I've read about NDEs and I understand NDEs. And did you watch the OA, by the way?
Yes.
So watching that did something that I don't quite have words for. I really connected with that.
Yeah.
But my experience of life has been very different than the people around me. And these things that I've described to you, I've only ever met one other person who can do the architecture thing. And I met her 2 months ago.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if I'm a psychic. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to call this. But what I do know is that it's always been there. It doesn't go away. It's not something I can forget. There's another piece of this is that when I was little, maybe up until about kindergarten, and my youngest memory of my out in the air human life, I was 19 months old. That's the first memory that I have.
That's wild.
Yeah, apparently that's wild. I don't know. It's just my life. So, regularly before approximately kindergarten, I would be overtaken by this not memory, not dream experience. It was like more than a dream and more than a memory. It was really vivid. It was visceral. It was physical. It was spatial. And what the memory is that I would be very, very peacefully, this just like, the words aren't even going to touch this, like want for nothing. Everything is there. It's good. There's nothing bad. And I was flying over my hometown that I grew up in. And I would guess that I was about 4 stories in the air flying over this town. And in that town at the time, the tallest building in town was 3 stories high. And I didn't get in an airplane until I was 20. So I don't have any reason to have seen this town. And this was way before Google Maps, right? And I could draw for you on Google Maps exactly where I flew. And so it was this like blissful, peaceful, calm, want for nothing, everything is okay moment. And then that part of the not memory, not dream faded into this awful experience. This, I'm using my hands, but they're not even adequate. I was being compressed, extremely compressed between 2 massive gray things that were kind of like a glacier, almost slowly moving. And I was being like ground molecularly between these 2 things. And it was suffocating and it was terrifying and it was awful. It was this awful experience. And then at some point I would just be released from it. And as a little kid, I'm guessing, I don't really know, I probably was like, while this was happening, because it was totally overwhelming. Like I doubt I was talking through it. I probably checked out for a second, had the not memory, and then came back to whatever I was doing. And I had that happen so many times. It was happened over and over, all over and over and over again before I was about 5 that I'll never forget that. And it's different. It has a different flavor than any other memory dream I've ever had. And I don't know what that is, but the only way I can describe it is I remember arriving.
Yeah, I mean, that's why when you told me this before, I was like, that was coming through the birth canal.
So
I don't
a lot
know,
of people
but
have said that.
you're squeezed between like these 2 ends with most like traumatizing experience. And I can imagine being born, and if we had that memory, would be rather.
There's a reason we don't remember the birth canal. Yeah,
right.
So a lot of people have said that, Michelle. Was that the birth canal?
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. I almost wonder if that was me being transfigured into density.
Sure.
Yeah.
And another side piece of this, I have never feared my own death. Because that moment of flight,
Yeah.
there's no doubt in my mind that that's where I'm going after this meat sack is done.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
It was really good.
And did that stop happening to you?
Yeah, it stopped
the
overwhelming me
Okay.
at around kindergarten.
Wow.
Because it's like in the reincarnation literature with children, there's an opening, there's an elasticity where the ego is not yet calcified in this current instantiation to such a degree where so there's an openness still.
Yeah.
And so that was occurring in that window, the way, the
Yes.
ages that you gave for that. So I would not be surprised, to hear you say that, yeah, I mean, that kind of stopped as I got into this life.
As I
Yeah.
lost my 4 front teeth, apparently it stops when you lose your teeth. So
it goes away with
I
the
hear
forefront
this
teeth,
is actually
right?
a thing that I've heard. So the other thing, Zach, that happened, you asked me about this. What is my soul here to do? When I was young, maybe around 2 or maybe around 3, I do remember that I must have been recently potty trained because it was a very novel experience to be in the bathroom alone. And I was in the bathroom and I was just kind of looking at the dust motes there was like a beam of light. And I was just kind of looking at the dust motes and just like being there. And I heard this male voice. I've heard a disembodied voice one time in my whole life. It's a voice I've never heard since and I hadn't heard before. And it very clearly said, "You're here to do it all, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes!" And there's no customer support number to call.
Yeah.
There's never been a follow-up call. There's no FAQ. And I quite literally have chased that my whole life. And I think it's one of the ingredients that ended me as a hyper overachiever. Because there felt like there was so much truth in that statement question. And I instantly, obviously, it was a bodily hell yes.
Mhm.
And it still is a bodily hell yes. But when I ask myself the question, what does it mean to do it all? I got nothing for you.
Okay.
I don't know.
Right.
Do you know? Because I don't know.
No, when you
So
said
at
it,
some level, I mean, the soul came here intentionally. It landed in this meat sack intentionally on this planet at this time to do it all. Whatever the fuck that means.
I'd say you're so far so good. You could stop now, honestly, if you wanted to, really.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I've changed careers 7 times, literally changed careers chasing what's bigger.
Right.
I used to have a piece of paper on my wall, an 11 by 17 with huge letters that said, "What's bigger?" Where I am now, doing what I'm doing now, is what I'm supposed to be doing. I am, however, I'm furrowing my brow at this. I know I'm not doing it big enough. I know what I do is extremely effective. My clients will tell you. I actually own superfuckingmagic.com because that's what they call me.
Nice.
I know it's not about me. I know it's not an ego-driven thing. It has nothing to do with any sort of award or accolade, or it's not a hero thing. I know I'm not reaching enough people. And I know I'm not doing it big enough, whatever that means. That still is the burr under my saddle to this day.
yeah, that's what's driving you still further. That's what's bigger.
That's what's bigger. Yeah.
I feel that. I feel that hard. I've felt desires like that since I was a child. I could feel it in my bones to do something big. I'd watch a lot of movies with like influential change, and I actually remember the movie Milk, and I remember like bawling, sobbing, and being like, I meant to do something massive. And as I've gotten older, I think the emotional response I had as a child to it's my soul, and it's not about recognition. It's not about awards. It's not about money, but it is just this deep deep knowing, soul knowing. And I
Mhm.
think now there's something happening, something changing. I think we all feel it. We've talked about it in episodes before where
Yeah.
there's people paying more attention and people are there to listen. And people like you are ready to answer that. And we're here to help
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
spread that
I
message.
So what I don't know if it feels like this for you, but it felt like for me when you said it that there's a resonance sometimes.
Yes.
That you're
Yeah,
just
for
kind of
sure.
like chucking along in life and all of a sudden there's a why'd that
Yeah.
make me salivate kind of a thing. Um
Right.
and to your point, there is a quickening happening of some kind.
Right.
In my own personal practice, in my own internal experience, I would say maybe the last couple of months.
Mhm.
I maybe not quite every time, almost every time, I open up a new level in my meditation.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
changing very fast. It's very intense. It's happening in my waking life.
Yep.
I'm really deeply grateful that I've been on this consciousness journey for so much time that I have the ability to
Right.
handle this extremely fast and dramatic rate of change. I
Yes.
think if I was at the beginning of my journey right now, I'd be a little bit like, what water slide did I just get on?
Right. Right.
But it's happening in a way that is tangible, and I've heard it from a lot of other people too. I don't know
Mhm.
exactly what it is. This is kind of a Monty
Right.
Python sketch at this point. I don't know what it is, but it is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just for closing, when you were talking and when you were talking, I've got an answer for maybe do it all.
Mm.
So I was on Twitter this week, as I always am, and there was a video going around of a scientist, and he was using rather spiritual language, talking about an organism. Every organism has a light cone of perception. So a bacteria, its light cone, it cares about a sugar. Like that's what it's wired to understand and go after. That's what it can see and perceive. And every organism has its own light cone. And then there's spiritual people found this and started having a conversation. It's like, well, yeah, that's what we're here to do. Go maximally into our personal light cone and explore it as like aggressively and as far as you possibly can, because that's what you're here to do. That's your duty to everyone, is to go maximally into your own personal light cone. And that's not ego driven. That's actually always in the service of others. And so that really like resonated with me this week. I'm like, yeah, I like that a lot.
Zach, that is a gift. Thank you. I feel a settling just at hearing that story that is probably going to keep happening for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This post potty training message that I got has really truly harassed me my whole life.
Yeah.
Like it,
Yeah.
at some point, not to be super visceral, but at some point I described it as the meat hook. That it felt like in that moment I consented to a meat hook being lodged behind my sternum.
Mhm.
And if I got too complacent in my career, somebody would jerk the chain.
Yep.
And it was uncomfortable. It was awful. And it was
Mhm.
like, okay, time to level up. Here we go. I don't know. Here we go. I'm going to follow the meat hook.
Mm-hmm.
But the thought that it could be a cone, like nobody's going to call a bacteria egotistical for chasing sugar. Come on.
Right.
Yeah.
That it's just what it's maybe even just a knowing that I am doing what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. And this has been a pleasure. It was great to meet
Laurie,
you.
you're
Likewise.
so inspirational for me. Like I've read all of Joe Dispenza's books, but I think I'm gonna go back and reread them. We do meditate pretty often, but just hearing your commitment to that, you've reinforced a lot for me and re-inspired me. And you're amazing. So
Good.
I guess last question for you, and that being biggest takeaway as you've gone on this journey of life, which has been many different things, transforming through careers and so much. What can you offer to our listeners as a very small piece of wisdom that has been your main takeaway and where you are right now, and something maybe that you're also taking with you as you look into what's next? Because it sounds like you're not done.
No, I'm not done. The one salient, pithy bit of thing that I would say to everybody who has stuck with it this long and hears this is you do not have to keep living like this.
Mhm.
I know it. I
Yeah.
live it every day. I guide people through it every day. I've seen it over and over. All sorts of people have gone through this with me. You are so special, but you are not special in this.
Yeah.
I know you think you have to keep living like this, and all there is to do is to walk on this very narrow path, and there's no choices for you. You do not have to keep living like this.
Mhm. Love it. I love it. I love it. Well, we're gonna make sure to link to everywhere that everybody can find you. You've been amazing. I'm just so grateful. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Thank you, too, for the opportunity. You are a delight. Both of you are a delight to talk to. What an experience to have this here with you.